recalling what he was about to see here. "The boat went up like the clappers," Seaton enthused. "The fire investigation officer called us because he thinks it's a suspicious death." Horton drew up in front of the bridgehead. He could see the firefighters reeling in the hoses on the pontoon, but the boat, or what was left of it, was hidden by the thick fog. He hesitated and silently cursed himself for his foolish fears and uncharacteristic indecisiveness. Hoping he wasn't betraying what he was feeling, Horton glanced at Cantelli, who was chewing gum and frowning at the sight of the fire. Perhaps he should confide in the sergeant. Cantelli, with his more intuitive nature and half-Italian blood, would understand about premonitions. But what the devil could he confide? A feeling? It sounded crazy and weak. His new boss, DCI Lorraine Bliss, would put him on sick leave if she knew what he was thinking. Either that or have him sectioned. And maybe she would like that. She was taking some getting used to, and they hadn't exactly started off on the right foot. Horton could still recall her reaction when he'd questioned her efficiency on the case where their paths had crossed before her promotion. "Have you seen the victim?" he asked Seaton. "The fire officer wouldn't let me on board. He said it wasn't safe." He looked so disappointed that Horton felt like admonishing him, but he held his tongue. Instead, he asked, "What about an ID?" Seaton began to look uncomfortable. "I haven't had the chance to check it out at the Marina office, and WPC Summerfield is asking around for anyone who witnessed the explosion." Something inside Horton snapped. Enthusiasm was all very well, but when it got in the way of procedure, then it was sloppiness. He heard himself say, "Your first priority, Constable, is to control this crowd, secure the scene, and ascertain the identity of the victim, not jigger up and down as if you wet your pants at finding some poor bastard burnt to a crisp." "Sir?" Seaton snapped to attention, staring straight ahead. Horton could feel the young constable's disappointment, and it irked him that he'd been so harsh, because he recalled his own sense of excitement at a high-level incident when he was a young PC. He knew that Seaton's enthusiasm was only natural. He also knew that he was a fine one to talk. Procedure could, and often did, go the way of the dodo if Horton thought he was onto something. Secure the area and get Summerfield cataloguing everyone who goes onto the bridgehead. See that no one gets within spitting distance of those fire appliances except those who are authorized to do so. And if you're not sure who that is, then you'd better go back to basic training," he said stiffly. Seaton scurried off like a scalded cat, and Horton caught Cantelli looking at him, mildly surprised. "Seaton won't be so chipper after he's seen the body," Horton grumbled, heading towards the security gate that led onto the pontoon. Damn it. Why was he feeling and behaving like this? Perhaps he'd been working too hard. He'd had a traumatic year after being charged and subsequently cleared of rape. That, and fighting to gain access to his daughter against a wife who was out to prevent him from doing so at every opportunity just to spite him, was enough to make any man break. He consoled himself. But even as he did so, he despised the excuses. Concentrate on the facts. You're a policeman, so damn well act like one. He peered at the security gate that led from the bridgehead onto the pontoons. It was wedged open for the firefighters, but normally admittance would only be allowed after tapping a security code onto the digital keypad, and that code was regularly changed. Horton examined the opening mechanism. There's no sign of a forced entry, which means that if it is a suspicious death, our killer must either have known the victim, be a boat owner, or a member of the Marina staff. Either that or he slipped in behind another boat owner. Perhaps the fire investigation officer is wrong, and this is an accident, Cantelli said, unravelling another piece of gum and popping it in his mouth. Let's hope so, for all our sakes. We're enough officers down already with this flu bug, and with only a week to Christmas, managing a murder investigation will be a nightmare. Yeah, but not yours, Andy, Cantelli said quietly. Horton glared at him. Thanks for reminding me that I failed to get into the major crime team or get promoted. For a moment, I'd almost forgotten. But Horton couldn't take offence. He'd known Cantelli too long for that, and respected and valued him as a friend. Besides, he knew what Barney was doing.